We'll start with the word of prayer. Our dear God in heaven, we come before you this morning with thanksgiving in our hearts for bringing us back once again on this preparation day as we near the close of this camp. Dear God, we ask for your presence through this study that we're going to be continuing. I ask for the Holy Spirit to be with me, and may you help us all to see all that you have been trying to teach us with the messages of the midnight cry, and may you help us to understand the new light, the the standalone messages that have been given to us, and help us to appreciate as well the light which began shining from the midnight cry message that continues to guide us up to your second coming. Dear God, I pray for everyone. I pray that you help us all to focus and to do our diligent work in these studies, not just today, even in our personal studies, dear God. I pray and ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ, saying Amen. Okay, so we've been looking at the history of the king of the north as Pyrrhus. That's the line of Pyrrhus. That's stretches from 317 to 272. So when the studies of Pyrrhus were done, we saw how we were taken into the history of Pyrrhus through the study of Acts 27. So Acts 27 was the key that led us to the midnight cry, the messages of the midnight cry, particularly the king of the north, the studies of the king of the north. And so we have the period between Panium and the Sandalo with Acts 27. Acts 27. So the study of Acts 27 shows us the dispensation between Panium and the Sandalo. And here we see the overturning of the United States. And in that history, there's also the progressive fall of the king of the south. So when we went into the history, this is where we also see the number 273. And in that dispensation, we also see the progressive fall of the king of the south as Pyrrhus. So we also see a harvest there. Last time we went through the symbols that we get at Argos when we go to the literal history of Pyrrhus. When we go to Argos, we see the story of Pyrrhus attacking a city of Argos. And at that city, we have a symbol of a woman, we have information, we have the name Argos itself giving us the color white as of the harvest, as of ripened grain that is ready for harvest. And then we also have QFMG, who is the ambassador of the delegation that was sent to Egypt by Rome. Okay. So after unlocking the king of the south character, which is Pyrrhus, in that dispensation of Panyam to Sandalo, we went on to looking at Pyrrhus's history, Pyrrhus's life, and we saw that it is divided into two, as illustrated on the board. We have from his involvement in the Fourth Diadochi War, where he's trying to establish an empire in the former territory of Alexander the Great. So there is the Alpha and Omega history of his whole story. So we can see it there. This is the Alpha Omega of Pyrrhus in Macedonia. So Alpha history of Pyrrhus in Macedonia, and then Omega history of Pyrrhus in Italy. And we see there the connection at 287. Does anyone have a question so far? Okay. All right. So we went to some verses in Daniel which show us Alexander's death and the rising up of 4 generals. Who remembers the verses? Yes, Chietza. Yes, that's one of them.
It's Daniel 11, verse 4.
Thank you.
And 6, I don't know.
No.
No.
Yes. Yes. So the second one is Daniel 8, verse 8, and then the other one is Daniel 11, verse 4. So we have 4 horns, and we have the he-goat with the horn that is broken, and then we have 4 horns coming up. Question, where do the horns come up from? The horn. So where do the 4 horns come up from?
Can I try?
Yes.
The broken little horn. The 4 wings.
The 4 horns. Okay, she's saying the 4 horns are coming up from the horn.
The little horn, right?
And then
the 4.
where do they grow up from? Out from? Stella. Leah. Where do the 4 horns grow out of?
Which verse are we looking at?
When we look at verse Daniel 11, verse 4, Daniel 8, verse 8, we speak of the rise, the death of Alexander and the rising up of 4 horns. So my question is, where do the 4 horns come out from?
The 4 horns.
Yes.
Let me read the verse. Daniel 8, verse 8.
Yes.
Therefore, he got waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. It came from the he-goat.
Why do you say so?
Because naturally a horn cannot come up on top of another.
Okay.
from another. When one is broken, I don't know if it's correct.
Okay, does anyone else want to have a go at it? Ngoni.
I think the four ones grew from the four winds of the earth: north, east, south, and west.
Can you read the verse for us?
The verse, okay.
Takuzo has a hand whilst Ngoni is looking for the verse. Yes, Taku.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, based on the verse, when the notable horn broke, from where the notable horn broke came up four horns, and those horns, and then it says what? Toward the four winds of heaven. So, yeah, where the notable horn broke is where the four other horns came from.
So, okay, so we have a horn and it breaks. Are you saying that the four horns grew out of here? Okay, let
I
me
don't know if
let me
it's-
draw it again. Please don't judge my drawing. Is this what you're saying happens?
Not growing out of the horn, but from the head, because the horn is on the head.
Okay,
and it
so
breaks, and then four come out. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that they grow out of
Yeah.
the goats?
Yes. And then when he talks about now toward the four winds of heaven, I think that's like, because we are then told in Daniel chapter 8 with the horns represent what's those four generals that were fighting. So I think maybe it's just representing the location where the four horns ended up going to. Yeah. So yeah.
All right, thank you, Takut. Does anyone have a contribution on Zoom? Newman?
Yeah, I made the later, not now.
Okay. All right. What does the horn symbolize? What do horns symbolize? What is the horn a symbol of?
It is not the ruler or king.
Thank you, Newman. So the horn symbolizes the king, ruler, leadership. How about the goats? What does the goat symbolize? What is it a symbol of? Class. Yes, precious. Kingdom. Which kingdom in this context? Greece. So if the horn symbolizes the ruler, in this verse we cannot have the 4 generals coming out of Alexander. So the 4 generals come out of Greece. Okay, so Alexander dies, and also the verse also tells us that the kingdom was not divided to Alexander's posterity. I think that's also a point we can take note of. Don't know what others think. Any contributions? Okay, so Alexander dies 232 and 301. We have the Battle of Ipsus, and we have 4 generals come up. And we spoke of for there to be 4 left, it means that many other generals have fought and they've killed each other through the course of the 4 Diadochi Wars. And then in the history of the 4th war comes the story of Pyrrhus in the Alpha history in his Alpha history, where he was attempting to establish his empire, and he fails, and we saw how which leader was sharing Macedonia with Pyrrhus. You remember? Demetrius, no, it's not Demetrius. Yes, just in 287. Yes. So we see Lysimachus sharing Macedonia with the Pyrrhus, and Lysimachus uses sanctions and subterfuge to isolate Pyrrhus, and Pyrrhus is left with the territory with which he began with in 303. So that mission failed of establishing an empire in Macedonia, and then he finds an opportunity to expand in Italy. So there are 4 battles between the king of the north and the king of the south. Can we identify those battles, those 4 battles? Let's start with those.
Battle of Panium. All of them.
I said there are 4 battles between the king of the north and the king of the south.
Name me all of them. What's the name all of them?
There's the hand there.
It's the Battle of Ipsus, Heraclea, Asculum, and Beneventum.
Okay, and what was the deciding factor of the war?
In each,
Yes, in all of them.
elephants decided in each battle.
Thank you. Okay, so this is just a little bit of revision before we move on. Um, so we can see the method of war with the king of the south is consistent. With the battles is consistent in the four wars. And we want to move on to some applications. I'll just ask to say who is the king of the south in our history. Yes, Chieza. Russia. Okay. So I'm going to just show how elder Tess helps us to see the similarities between Putin and Pyrrhus. Okay. So when we go to Daniel chapter 2, what do we have in Daniel chapter 2? Okay, we have the statue, and what do we understand the statue to represent?
Kingdoms of Bible prophecy.
Okay, let's go to Daniel 2, verse 37 to 38. You can read if you found it.
Thou, O King, art the King of kings, for the God of heaven has given thee the kingdom, power, and strength and glory. Verse 8. And whosoever the children of men dwell the beasts of the field, and the fowls of heaven, hath he given into his hand, and made thee ruler over them all.
Okay, so who's the head of gold? Who's the head of gold? Yes, Stella.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Okay, so Nebuchadnezzar is the head of gold. So a king represents his kingdom. We cannot have a king without a kingdom. So Elder Tess labors to show us the kingdom of Pyrrhus and the history of Pyrrhus. Just as we have gone into the history of Nebuchadnezzar and we trace that history and we get information that is important for our understanding. So Elder Tess shows us how Pyrrhus is the 10th king of Epirus. So the same thing that she did with the line of Pyrrhus as the king of the south, she has to trace backwards and just see who's the first. Is anyone familiar with this history of Epirus? All right. So who's the first king of Epirus? Let's revise together. No. I help you to remember.
Admetus.
So we have Admetus, the first. Okay, so Pyrrhus became king when he was very young, and his father Admetus was a king before him, and he involved his country into the first of the Diadochi Wars, and this turned the people against him. So the people of Epirus did not want to be involved in the Diadochi Wars, but because the mother of Alexander was a princess of Epirus and relative of Aecidus, he kept interfering in the wars. So Aecidus was king just before Pyrrhus. Oh, please bear with me as I just try to recall how the order of this of the line. Okay. Does anyone want to try and help me with the history? Okay. Okay, so we have identified the first. So yeah, we have Aecidus next. And we said Aecidus is what? Is who to Pyrrhus? Aecidus. Yes, Aecidus is father to Pyrrhus. And why was he unpopular? Why was he unpopular to the people of Epirus? Yes.
I think it's because he got involved in the Diadochi Wars, and the people at Epirus didn't want to go to war.
Yes. And thank you, Precious. And why did Aecidus keep on interfering in the war? I just read, this is like comprehension because I just read it. Yes. So Alexander's mother was a princess of Epirus, and because Aecidus was related to Alexander's mother, he kept on interfering. So the people rose up against him, and they removed him in a coup. And his rival took the throne after he was removed. His name was Libert. No. Yes. His name was Neoptolemus. Don't know if I'm pronouncing it correct. Neoptolemus II. So, are we following on Zoom? On Zoom, are we following? Can you still hear me? Okay. All right. So Neoptolemus' rival takes over after Aecidus, Pyrrhus' father, because Aecidus is taken off the throne through a coup. The people rose up against him. And then Neoptolemus does not stay on the throne for long. And who comes back? Aecidus comes back. Aecidus comes back, but he is killed because he is weakened by the coup. The coup that happened to him just affected his governing power. And then we have his older brother to Aecidus, who's called, I think this is the one Jesse mentioned, Alcetus. So Alcetus is Aecidus' older brother who took the throne, and Alcetus was older than Aecidus, but he was not allowed to take the throne because of. Does anyone want to try fill in the blank? Sorry? He had an ungovernable temper. He had a temper, and his people didn't like him generally. So Aecidus, his younger brother, was chosen to be king instead because of Alcetus's behavior or tempers. So he doesn't last long, and he is removed by the people because he was not liked already. And then who comes into power? Yes, then Pyrrhus comes into power at a very young age, and he is inexperienced, and he is weak. So the story goes that Pyrrhus leaves the throne to attend a birthday party, and whilst he was away, his rival takes the throne. And the rival is the same rival that his father had here. So who is that? Winnie? Which rival did Aecidus have? When he was taken off the throne through a coup, we said that his rival came into power. Which rival was that? It's Neoptolemus, this one. So Neoptolemus takes the throne. Pyrrhus comes back and forces Neoptolemus to co-rule with him. And eventually, Neoptolemus is killed and Pyrrhus becomes the sole ruler of Epirus. So Pyrrhus comes back and he is the sole ruler of Epirus. So we're going to apply this history to Russia. Just a key point, I also had a bit of confusion. Elder Test keeps some rulers of Epirus, and here we've got the 10th, but if you count from the first, you see that there's some rulers missing there, but Elder Test picks up the ones that are relevant for the study. So we're going to look at Russia. And we said we identified the king of the south as Putin. So Putin is the king and his kingdom is Russia. So we're going to just look at Russia the same way that we did Epirus. So does anyone have a question so far or contribution? So if Pyrrhus was the 10th of Epirus, then Putin is also what? Also going to put Putin here as the 10th. And we're going to trace back and fill in the history. Who is the first? I can hear Jesse saying Stalin. So we have Stalin. Stalin becomes the first. And then we have Gorbachev. 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 Don't know how to pronounce that. So towards the end of Gorbachev's reign, Gorbachev was removed in a coup. So we have a coup. Who else was removed in a coup? In the line of Epirus. Eusebius was also removed in a coup. So we have Gorbachev being removed in a coup. And who comes next? Who takes the throne? Yanayev. So Yanayev takes over the Soviet Union. And who returns? Can you see why Elder Terry and Elder Tess is cherry picking information and the applications that she was able to make with the information. So we might say, I don't want to, it's boring. This is boring because I've got nothing to do with this. But for us to see this, we have to have this. So in as much as all this, the Alpha and Omega history may be overwhelming, we need to understand this just as it was understood by our elders or the messengers. Okay, so we have Gorbachev coming back. And what happens? What happened? Isidis was weakened by his coup. So was Gorbachev. Gorbachev was weakened by the removal from power. So he no longer has influence. And Gorbachev steps down. So next we have Boris Yeltsin coming in. Boris Yeltsin comes in and he has a problem with self-control. By the time we get to 1999, the public has lost trust, has lost confidence in him. So he was okay and more appealing to the public at first, but now because of drinking issues, he also has corruption and national embarrassment. This leads the people to turn against him. He also has health problems because of his drinking. And when he steps down, he is unwell and he's also unpopular. So he steps down, but we can see that he has issues, he has drinking issues, but when he stepped down, the reason was his health was deteriorating. So he also had corruption cases on his back. Who comes after Boris Yeltsin? Okay, so Putin comes in. He is young and he is also inexperienced like Pyrrhus. Okay. So this is 1999. Does anyone have a question so far on what on Zoom are we following?
Yes, we are following.
Thank you. Yes.
How things seem to like fall together. It's like a jigsaw puzzle because in the line of Epirus, Alcetus had a problem and people didn't favor him. We said he had a temper, and then when you come down to the line of Russia, you also see that Boris Yeltsin has a challenge of self-control. They both have something with their characters which is not favorable to the people.
Thank you, Precious. Does anyone else have a contribution? So Putin comes in. He is also young and weak, inexperienced, and he is elected in 2000 for 2 terms. How long were those terms? Okay. I thought it was 4. I don't know if someone can just confirm 5. Sorry? Okay, so Liberty says 4. Yes, in 2000. So it's 4 years. Okay. So the terms were 4-year long. Each term was 4 years, and he is elected in 2000 for 2 years. So I'll just try to illustrate that. So 2004 up to 2008. Okay. It's the first and the second term. So we mentioned that the king of the south, one of the characteristics of the king of the south is that he is a dictator. And in 2008, Putin is weak and restrained. What restrained Putin from continuing on from 2008? Yes, Jerry.
It's the constitution.
Yes, his term was over and the constitution did not allow him to run for a 3rd term. Okay? So Putin was killing people. He was imprisoning his opponents and killing a lot of people just so that he could have a go at another 3rd term. But the constitution still restrained him. And how does he bypass the constitution? Because he wants to continue ruling Russia. Yes, Precious.
Just try. I think he installed some prime minister or a puppet to himself to do the other term.
Okay. So thank you for that, Precious. So he brings in a puppet. What makes you say he's a puppet? So after Putin, we have who? What's his name?
Dmitry Medvedev.
Demetrius. Okay, we have Medvedev. Medvedev. So Medvedev is installed. He is younger, and Putin endorses him. So we could call this a co-rulership. Like Precious said, he was controlled by Putin. He was a puppet. And we see that at the end of his first term, he could have continued for a second term, but he knew what his duty was. he knew what his duty was, and he stepped down after his first term. So here we have co-rulership, because what happened with, we said that Pyrrhus had gone for a party, and he comes back and he sees Neoptolemus, the same enemy that his father had taken his throne. And what does he do? Yes, they entered into a co-rulership, so they were ruling together. They enter into a co-rulership until Pyrrhus kills Neoptolemus, and he is left as the sole ruler here. So we see that Medvedev and Putin were in sort of like a co-rulership. Because the reason why we say Putin and Medvedev were in a co-rulership is because Medvedev was a puppet of Putin. So he steps down, and Putin rules for 2 more terms, and he finds a way to bypass the constitution, which says he could not run for a 3rd term. So we have here a dictator running under a constitution that restricts him, and he still says he respects the constitution, but he has a hidden agenda of bypassing the restriction. So Putin comes back, as we would expect, as what? So Putin comes back as a sole ruler. So I just wanted to say, I want to say that this presentation was done by Elder Tess in the year 2019, July. Initially, when I watched these presentations, I wanted to do Diadochi Wars, but I bumped into one presentation called the Diadochi Wars by Elder Tess, and this is what she was looking at. It was not what I had expected, but she looks at the Diadochi Wars. I think previously she was doing the Diadochi Wars, and then it was a continuation, and then she gets into the line of Pyrrhus. So there's the first presentation that covers this history of Pyrrhus is Diadochi Wars, and then the second one is Putin versus Pyrrhus, and then there's a third one that is titled The King of the North, the King of the South, sorry. Yeah. So when she identifies the behavior of Putin through doing this compare and contrast, she likens it to that of Donald Trump's behavior. So like I said, we said that by understanding the King of the South, we can also understand the King of the North. So not only are we looking at the history of the King of the North, we're also comparing and contrasting with our history, with the history of modern King of the North, the King of the North in our history, and also understanding more on the King of the South. So just want to check how many minutes I have left. Okay. So we have understood that Pyrrhus A equals B, which is Pyrrhus equals to Putin. And God illustrates the end from the beginning. If Putin is the last king of the South, we can compare him with Stalin, who's the first. So when we're doing parables, we can also see how we use Alpha and Omega, illustrating the end from the beginning. So we want to show how we can do that with the line of Putin, King of the South. Okay. So before Stalin, we have Tsar Nicholas. What ends with the four of the Tsar? How do you pronounce it? I just feel like it sounds wrong. Sorry? What ends with the four of the Tsar? Yes. So when Nicholas steps down, we have the Russian monarchy ending with him. And so we have the four of, end of monarchy. When we have the end of the monarchy, we have someone coming in by the name of Lenin. So Lenin comes in and he has health problems. He had a heart problem. So Lenin came in and he wanted to, because he was weak because of his health, he wanted his government to rule. He wanted his administration to rule the government. So he identified Stalin as someone he could trust and someone who was disciplined. So Lenin identifies Stalin and he gives him a position of general secretary. So when Stalin comes into power, he was weak and he was given this position, which was not a powerful position. But he came into the government and he made it a strong position. So when Stalin died, he still held the position of general secretary. And because he made this position the strongest position, when he died, he still had the position of general secretary. Okay, so he comes in weak, he is identified by Lenin, and he's given this position of general secretary. It's not a strong position, but Stalin himself makes it a very strong position. I made a mistake on the spelling of Stalin. Okay. So before Lenin dies, he looks at Stalin and he sees how powerful he has become. And Lenin identifies Stalin as a dictator. So he tries to have him removed, but he couldn't remove him from power. And by that time, Stalin has a stronghold on government, and Lenin dies, and Stalin becomes a dictator. So we have a dictator out of Stalin. And he was placed in that position by Lenin. He did not see, he could not see that Stalin was capable of becoming who he became at the end. And he tried to take him down because he could see the dangers that Stalin was posing to Russia, but he couldn't do it. He couldn't do anything about it. Okay, so when Gorbachev dies, what dies with Gorbachev? What ends with Gorbachev's death? Thank you. So here we have the end of the USSR. Um, so with the end of USSR, we have Boris Yeltsin coming in, and Boris Yeltsin, like we said, he has self-control, he has drinking issues, and he identified as well Putin. Boris Yeltsin identifies Putin, and just like Stalin, Boris Yeltsin, Putin also is young, and he looks like a very innocent person, and he is trusted by Boris Yeltsin, and he is given a post. What job was that Putin was given? Sorry? He was given a post in
KGB.
yes, he was given a post in the KGB. Sorry. So he is trained in the what? KGB. Sorry. Yes, but he was also trained as in the Yeah. Okay. So here we've got a post of prime minister that he was given by Boris. Yes. So Boris Yeltsin identifies Putin and he gives him this position of prime minister. And he has also trained in the KGB. He starts off as like a grounds person. He was just helping, like a nobody. And it was the same with Stalin. Stalin and Putin, they come from poor backgrounds as compared to all the other leaders that we have on the line. So they come from similar backgrounds. That's Putin and Stalin. Okay, so I think maybe we can take a break and then we come back. Yeah. So just to recap, we started from Acts 27. Acts 27 is a study that leads us to the history of Pyrrhus. And in that history of Pyrrhus 273, we identify Pyrrhus as the king of the south. And we looked at Pyrrhus' history, which is his history in Macedonia and history in Italy, Alpha and Omega. And we went to Daniel chapter 2. In the book of Daniel, we are shown Alexander who dies and 4 generals come up. We try to identify where those horns rise up from, and we see that the verse shows us that when the little horn is broken, 4 come up, and we say the 4 that come up, the horns, they come out of the goat, symbolizing that the 4 generals or the 4 leaders, they come out of Greece and not Alexander, who is a horn. And then I think we went to the book of Daniel again, where we see Nebuchadnezzar identified as the head of gold. And we see how the head of gold, Nebuchadnezzar, is the king, and the king cannot be a king without a kingdom. And we went into looking at, because we looked at Pyrrhus, we're now looking at the kingdom of Pyrrhus, and we looked at that history. We identified Pyrrhus as the 10th, and we went to the first and traced down up to when Pyrrhus comes back as the sole ruler of Pyrrhus. And we lined that history with the history of Russia. And we could see a pattern because Russia is the king of the south for our time. We did the same, and we saw the pattern between Pyrrhus and Russia. So we see Pyrrhus being the 10th. We also see Putin as being the 10th. And then we see that the first ruler for Epirus is Admetus. Admetus is followed by Acidus. Acidus is Pyrrhus' father, who is removed in a coup. And after Acidus, there comes Neoptolemus, who is an enemy of Acidus. And Neoptolemus does not keep the throne for long, and Acidus comes back, but he is weak and he does not hold the throne for long because he's weakened. And Alcetus comes in and takes over, but we see Alcetus has temper, and the people do not like him because of that. So we have Pyrrhus taking over from Alcetus, and Pyrrhus is distracted from his throne, and he comes back and he sees Neoptolemus has taken over his throne, and there is a co-rulership between Neoptolemus and Pyrrhus. But Pyrrhus eventually kills Neoptolemus and he becomes the sole ruler. And then we said that the same pattern is repeated, where we have the first Stalin, the second Gorbachev, is removed in a coup, just like Acidus. We have Yanayev coming in. I forgot what we said about Yanayev. He was, sorry? Who remembers what we said about Yanayev? Sorry? Yes, he is rival to Gorbachev. So, yeah, we can see that pattern there. So Yanayev is a rival to Gorbachev, and Gorbachev returns. He is weak because of the coup, and he does not last long. And then we have Yeltsin coming in. Boris Yeltsin has self-control issues, and Putin is the 10th. Boris Yeltsin puts Putin as prime minister, and he rules 2 terms. He is restrained by the constitution, and he places in Medvedev, who he co-rules with because he is a puppet. And after that, Medvedev steps down after the first term, and Putin comes back into power. So then we were trying to look at how, using alpha and omega, we can also see a pattern between the first and the 10th. We identified Putin as the last here, and then Stalin as the first. And we wanted to see similarities between the first and the last, using comparing and contrasting the beginning with the end. So went back to Tsar Nicholas, who dies and ends the monarchy with his death. And after Tsar Nicholas, we have Lenin. Lenin is the one who identifies Stalin. And Stalin he presents himself as inexperienced and incapable of doing anything bad, or he is innocent. He looks innocent and disciplined. And Lenin identifies him and he gives him a position which is weak in government, but Lenin turns out to be a dictator. He makes that post of general secretary a very big post, and he becomes a dictator. And then, sorry, maybe I can do this. And then we went to Gorbachev, and we see how Gorbachev marks the end of the USSR when he is removed from power, when he steps down. He also marks the end of the USSR. And from Gorbachev, we have Boris Yeltsin, and Boris Yeltsin is the one who identifies Putin, and he places Putin into power. He introduces Putin into the government by giving him a post of prime minister. So just like Stalin, Putin was also weak and he was inexperienced, disciplined, and innocent. So Boris Yeltsin could not see any dangers or threats coming from Putin, I can say. Yeah. So we'll just end there. I don't know if anyone has a question or contribution, then we'll continue. If not, I'll ask Stella to pray for us.
Let's pray. Chance tinokutendai panguva ino nokuda lesson iri kutizarurira zvakavanzika zveshoko renyu. Toda kutenda nenguva yatava nayo yokusheya shoko renyu. Mbiri nerikudzo tinoramba tichidzosa kwamuri muzita raJesu tonamata. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.